Okay, well, this is just a bit of a waffle. Back on my Helleberg AKTO, what I thought I'd do is just have a bit of a ramble and talk about the little bits and pieces of it. I've been using it for a few months now, and I've recently just spent a week in it in a mixture of rain and hot weather, and a few mods. One of the mods is to use the tarp that's behind me, and as a sort of like a front door shelter, and you can see I've got it stretched out here behind me, just drying it out and trying out different settings for it. But to do with the AKTO, I thought I'd just go in and just go through detail by detail all of the little quirks and foibles and interesting bits. So I'm going to start off with the bag. This is kind of one of the best tent bags I've used. It could be slightly better, but I would say I don't want it to be better, if that makes any sense. So the material that the tent is and the bag is made out of this is this really soft material, and I'll put a description up for what it actually is, because for the moment I can't remember, and this is a no notes video, so there'll be a few little bits of text appearing here and there, corrections and various other bits and pieces, and probably the odd cat appearance as well. So the bag basically is a standard tent bag. It's a really nice material. It's got a drawer strap and it's got a button on it. I like that. So actually, is that a button? Take my glasses off. It just draws down, pulls tight, and standard drawer strap. I tend to just slide this thing back and it locks it, so it makes it easier to move it up and down, and locks it in place mostly. So the other thing that's really important is the camera's a bit too far away for this, but it's got a really wide drawer entrance, and that makes it useful for getting things in and out. Now, I keep everything I need for the tent in the tent bag, and it's kind of like an interesting shape. It's probably about a foot, or maybe about half a metre long, and so it will go in the bottom of a decent pack, I suspect, but it'll also just strap on under the hood, wherever you like to keep your tent. It also goes really well in my tent bag that I use to strap on the motorcycle, and I'll show that in a bit as well. So it's just like a conveniently sized packing. Now, one of the reasons why it's the size that it is because it comes with a tent pole. The tent pole is also in a bag. Now, before I go any further with this, I keep, as I've already mentioned, I keep everything in this bags that I need for the tent. So the tent pole, also similar bag, slightly different adapter. Hold it up to the camera as people will want to do. Hopefully you can see that. And there's a single pole, so it's not a biggie, but it also comes with a replacement pole and sheath for repairing. So cat chasing a butterfly. Did you get it? Hang on. Right, I'm back again, and the cat just caught a butterfly up on the fence there, so time to have a cup of coffee and entertain the cat. So as I was saying, you get a spare pole in the thing, and it's got a extra sheath around the outside for patching and some instructions on how to do things. So one of the things I might point out is that these poles are extremely light, and I'll hold it up to the camera for a bit. They are a lightweight aluminium, and I found that when you're putting them together, you can get a little bit of burring there if you're not putting them in straight. So great care is needed when doing this. So this is the main pole. There's an elastic that goes through the middle. Again, hold it up closer to the camera, and basically the poles kind of snap together, but as you can see, you just have to kind of wiggle it a little bit, and they can get quite tight. And I think what's happening is just a little bit of burring, but once you get it on, you just rock it back to forth, it goes on quite nicely, and then it feeds into the tent quite well. Same pulling it apart, it's sometimes will stick just around this lip here and just on this lip here, and I can feel, if you just run your thumb over it, you can feel just a little bit of burring, and I wonder if there's something to do with it just being in the bag, just rubbing a little bit. But other than that, I've had no issues with the pole. It goes in nicely. And it's got Dak Featherlight written on it, so I assume that's the make of the pole. Next thing that I keep in the bag somewhere around should be so this is my sort of like ground mat. Don't need this, but I have it. The footprint, it's just for the AKTO and the AKTO Tent, and it's got the same little drawer screen on it. I use this quite a lot. You don't need to, you can put the tent up without a ground mat, and even the inner doesn't need to be in, so you can use it as it's like an enclosed tarpaulin shelter. It's the same shape as the tent, and on it has a logo, which is probably not visible. And the logo just goes upwards, and you have these little clips. Now on the inside of the tent there's just a loop, and you just push these through the loop and then twist them round, and they hold on quite nicely. So so easy to put in, and very easy to put in the rain. I'm not going to expand this out yet. I'll put the tent up in a bit and then show you some more stuff. So what I found with the footprint and the inner, these bags are quite well done, so you can roll things up even when they're wet and bulky, and they just go into the bags really nicely. So that helps, especially when it's chucking it down with rain and you're trying to get things set up. I have just a Osprey 3 litre bag, and I keep the inner in that, and that just goes in, pulls it out. And you can see how well the inner packs down. And that's it, effectively. And then the yellow is the actual inner itself, and it's quite lightweight, Now it just hangs off the inside of the tent, so when I put the tent up, I'll go into this in more detail, just to make life easier for the moment. And then somewhere around there should be my tent pegs, so it's the bag itself, and tent pegs, again drawstring bag, and these are the small tent pegs. Now they say in the instructions you need to put them into the ground, they're duck tent pegs, you need to put them into the ground at an angle. You do need to do that, and they need to go into about here. Because of their size, they will vibrate in the ground, and especially if they're upright, and pull out. So they need to go in at an angle with the cord coming off, and you just basically put the guy rope over the end, and they have these really great cords on the end to allow them to be pulled out. Sorry, cat chasing a butterfly again. So you get a half a dozen of those in a bag, I think. Just see. Oh, yes. So about 8 of them. And the other thing that I've done, and this is one of my mods, is I've got 2 soft pegs, clothes pegs, and I'll show you what I use these for later, but basically they're for holding the door open. The door rolls up, but I found in the wind it tends to unroll, and this is the actual tent itself. And I think in a previous video I've sort of like highlighted this. Basically at either end of the tent there are these metal poles, and they hold the tent up and give it its shape. So what I found is basically bunch them all together and then roll the tent up to put it away, and that's just the easiest way of doing it. That's why when I'm in dry weather, I take all of the inner and everything out. In wet weather, you can literally just pull the pole out and roll the tent up and shove it in the bag with everything, the inner and the floor mat still attached, and that makes life easier when it's chucking it down with rain. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start putting the tent up and show you how I'm kind of using it. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just I put the tent up, and I've done it inside the tarpaulin, so just for fun. You can see it sticks out. So this is just a standard DD tarp, and I think it's a standard 9x9 or whatever it is. So you can get an idea for how big the AKTO is, and there it is poking out the other side. And this is just a tent pole. Use my hiking sticks just to stick this up. So this goes underneath the tarpaulin, and it gives me an indoor shelter. One of the problems that I have, being nearly 6 foot, I fit inside the AKTO really nicely, and I can sit upright, but in terms of moving around, you know, getting changed at night, getting into the sleeping bag, I'm a little bit bulky, and that's difficult to do. So I'll just show you how it goes down the side, and there it is at the other end. And I've got just my tripod and small, so it's going to be a little bit interesting doing this. Okay, so taking this off the tripod, and we can go inside. So this is basically the inside of the tent, and it's not tensioned up. I haven't put the side ropes on. You can see them dangling here. You could do if you wanted to. There's plenty of space to do that, but don't need it. There's the little cable that goes from one side to the other here. So, and that goes all the way across to the other side. That's a tensioner table. Now I tend to put the footprint underneath it, and but I'm not going to today. And you can see now what I found, just working at this end, is that I have these open all of the time, rain, sunshine. I haven't been in the snow yet, but probably. And these create the airflow that gives the stops the condensation. If I do everything up and button it up tight, because of the warmth of the body, moisture in the air, condensation forms. So, but I found that just open these, within about an hour, the condensation disappears. So I've had it down to about 6 degrees Celsius and up to 30 degrees Celsius. So, and it's performed quite nicely. So down in the corner you can see these are the little rubber grommets, and this is what the various inner and ground sheet attached to. There's one up in every corner, and I'm not sure. Excuse the lighting inside the tent. I haven't got a light. And then up on the inside there's regular little loops. Probably that one might come up better. And they go all the way to the other side. And then you get the door. And at the top of the door there is a wire piece here, and I tend to just bend that. That gives you a little bit of a rain loop to stop rain coming in. And then you have the door itself, which rolls up. And I will show you the peg on that. And then down at the other end, again, the same experience. And the pointy end is where I put my feet down to, and you tend to sort of like stay this end, give you ventilation. So I just jumped away to get the peg, and I'm going to stick this back on the tripod briefly. So bear with me. And just stick that there, and then point it, say about there somewhere. Right, hopefully I won't get in the way. I probably will, and maybe I'll move it around there. Now, hopefully you can see this, but there is a little attachment here, and on the inside a loop. Now the idea, when the tent door is closed, one then rolls it up, and there's a technique for it which I've not quite mastered, but you're supposed to be able to roll it up and do this, which is quite easy to do, and you would expect that to work quite nicely. But the problem that I've got is that the wind catches here and it pulls everything out. So all I do is just do that flat and stick a peg on it anywhere between there, and it's just a soft peg because you don't want to rip the material. So and that holds it quite nicely. So I think if I was Helleberg and I was making a mod to this tent, I would put another just tie thing there, and I would do the same thing on the inner mesh, because that would make life a lot easier. But the peg works, and I just keep them in my peg bag. And then this is the little bit of metal. There's a reflective material out there, so you can see it at night time, and it does glow. There's 4 of them, I think, around the tent, or a couple of them. I don't tend to pay much attention. So The next thing I think is quite interesting is probably down here, and so the way this works, and I've got all of this tangled up, so just be aware of that. So the way this works is that your pole goes into this little cup, and then you can just pull this thing tight and it tensions it up. So it's easy to do. A little bit harder getting it untensioned, and that sort of like tightens the door thing up. And the door is pretty easy to zip up, down. There's a zip running on the inside of it, it comes down, and then there's a storm flap. Now, one of the problems that I have trying to open it from the inside is that the storm flap doesn't go all the way to the top, which would be great if it did. It starts halfway down, about here somewhere, and when you come down with the zip hits it, and then you're having to wiggle the thing back and forth with both hands to get it to come down. Once it comes past it, it just zips down really, really nicely. So, you know, so it's functional. But that would be the modification that I would make. And again, you can see the little red grommet things here for looping things in, and then there's another thing for the ground strap. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to throw the ground sheet in so you can see it, and I'll give that another look-see. So back in a moment. Okay, so here it is there, and it goes all the way around to there and down and back. It's actually on. So here it is, it's just on the end. It doesn't go all the way up to the ends. It's really just for the inner to sit on. And so the big trick is that the Hilleberg logo goes to the door. So usually what I do is I just spread it out on the inside and clip the two ends in. You can see it clipped in over there, and then I tuck it under the strap and then down the other end, and that takes a few minutes. And you could use it like that if you wanted to, and just put the sleeping mat and everything in it. So what I'll do is I'll just chuck the inner up loosely. I won't tension it, and we'll see how that goes. So here I am with the inner attached, and you can see I'll just hold that up underneath, and you can see it's a bathtub design. Now there's a trick for this. You start at the far corner, and you'll see on the left hand side here there's just a tab down the bottom and a tab up the top. So you do the far corner one first, bottom top, and then you do this one, bottom top, and then you go over the middle as to up to the top, and then you do the far side, bottom top, and that requires leaning on the ground things, and then you do the top one here before you do that one. And so what happens is it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Now I usually leave the guy ropes quite slack and the tensioning quite slack. If you have it all tightened up, what happens, you get to the bottom one, you pull on it and it pops the tent pegs out, and then if it's a windy day, you get blown around a bit. So, but I found by leaving it slightly tensioned and doing it in that particular order, with the bottom right hand corner being the last one, it's really easy to do. If you make a mistake and do that one last, you have to come in from the end, and it becomes a one-hand job in the corners and leaning through and getting quite frustrating. But it probably takes less than a minute to put the inner up. I usually just roll it out with the door shut, and so I've given you a thing of yellow. Now you'll see here there's a little bit of mesh and there's a triangular panel, and here's the door. So basically zip it down, comes all the way down, and it comes all the way down, and it's a really nice zip, and then you end up with this. So I'm just going to quickly roll the door up. You can see there that there's a tab, and there's on the inside as well. So I'm just going to quickly roll the door up and show you what it looks like with the door up. Okay, so there's the door rolled up, and you can see it's not tensioned. So when you tension the tent, that little crease disappears and turns into a nice little bathtub. But I haven't put the side ropes on and pulled the guy ropes into the right direction, but you can see my peg, and that works really, really well. Now on the inside of the inner, this is what happens for me. So I tend to have a little bit of space down the other end to put some stuff, usually just a bag or something, and then on this end I have a lot of space. Now I would have liked to have seen a clear mesh panel or a double panel, so zip, 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 like on the end, but with a mesh there on each end. But that would have probably increased the cost, but it would have certainly helped with airflow. But as a general rule of thumb, it's great. But what you do get, and I'm just going to pull this down, bear with me as I struggle with the one-handed thing. So what you do get here, and I'm halfway out, is you get a little tear down, bit of Velcro, and that comes down and you get a nice breathing thing. So this is what I would have liked to have seen on each end. Now I 99.99% of the time have that down, because for the airflow, and it's summertime here, so, and I'll just push that aside, ut on while I do it up. Now this one you can see I've rolled up from the inside and put my little peg on, and it works quite well. So usually when this is tensioned nicely, you get a nice bit of headspace there. Now extra space, the vestibule, and that's quite interesting. When I'm on the motorcycle, I put my motorcycle dry bag there, and I just keep everything inside the dry bag. That works really, really well. And usually my boots, my motorcycle boots, and I put my jacket inside the dry bag if it's wet. If it's dry, I typically roll my jacket up and put it in the end, and the boots still stay outside. So that works really, really well. I mean, I can get my backpack. I've got enough space where I can get my backpack on my sleeping mat at the end of it, and use the backpack as a pillow. So for me, there's enough storage space on the end. So you can see just quickly it's been raining, and there's my little tarp shelter, and this is my setup in terms of the how I have it. I usually just have my stove and everything there, and to the left where the bags are I just have my pack and whatever, food bag. And you can see that I've got it set up with my woolly blanket, which I slept in last night. So that's just a quick overview. And just down on the front I've moved the pegs forward just to change the angle to allow the rain to run off. If I had more guy ropes or wanted to, I could peg down the sides of the tarp and bring it down to the ground and give myself a lot more shelter. That works quite well. So just to stop the wind from blowing it all around. Again, I can move the tent forward probably halfway up, and I can drop the back end of the tarp down lower to make some wind resistance, and I can do pretty much the same with the front. So standard tarp layouts.